And now it's live.
And we're live from the Cambridge Innovation Center here at the Venture Cafe. This is the Boston MIT node of the Computational Law and Blockchain Festival. We will have balloons at the festival later this afternoon, hence the festiveness. And so today we've got a few things going. We've got a hackathon track and we have a learning and discussion track. In the hackathon track, people are going to come up in just a few moments from now, and those people that want to hack on projects today will say a few words about what the projects are, and Chris Mondelaine will help facilitate that. But we'll also have at 2 o'clock and then 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a couple of unconference sessions. And the 3:30 p.m. one will be especially interesting one. We're coordinating with some multiple nodes on sovereign identity principles. Then at 5 o'clock, we'll kind of reconvene and do some report outs to see how the projects are going. I want to say on our site, can you scroll up, please? We have a code of conduct here that please review. One of the things that it suggests is like when people are talking, don't say you're a liar, because apparently that comes up. And so we don't do that here. What we do is we're civil, and we want to hear the broadest range of views. And we've got other important things in the code of conduct, so become familiar with that. And what else could I say? The other thing is if you scroll down a little bit, we have two really great challenges in the room that when we get into projects, we'll talk about. But TMA and I will talk a little bit about the sovereign identity challenge and the transactive energy challenge. So without, there's something I'm missing. What it could be? Anybody? Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to. I guess I just want to recognize Dimitri, who I mentioned, who's sitting over here, is a technology mentor. So for those of you that are interested in doing team projects, and if you'd like a little bit of help, we were talking about truffle and some other things. Basic stuff. He's really quite the jack of all trades and great technologist, and we're grateful to have you here on Saturday to help out with the hacking. So thanks, Dimitri.
Yeah, this is fun. Happy to be here.
It's good stuff. And I think we'll have the person from Uport back as well. So what do we have here? Did you scroll? Can you please scroll to the bottom, Mr. Mondelaine? Where's Brian? There he is. Prepare to be embarrassed. You scroll all the way to the bottom. Oh, in the white space. Oh, what's going on here? Well, anyway, if you scroll to the bottom, what you would see is a great big logo that thanks Thomson Reuters Labs for being our sponsor, and for the pizza to come, and balloons, and all the goodness. So thank you, Brian. Thanks, Thomson Reuters Labs. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to the hacking team, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for making it out on a weekend. I know it's not easy. This is actually going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's going to be a fun one, and one in which we're going to learn a lot of stuff about implementing things in and around sovereign legal identities. So, Daz and I have been collaborating on this stuff for quite some time, and it's really exciting to be able to do this with all of you and everyone around the world. This is going to be really kind of a special event, and I hope you guys make a lot of friends out of it. We're going to kick off by starting to get some teams together. So if you have an idea, or even a smidgen of an idea, I would love to hear what it is. I think everyone else would as well. So we're just going to ask that if you do have something in your mind at the tip of your tongue, that you kind of, even just something that you're inquisitive about, that you want to learn more about, I invite you to come on up and talk about that, whatever it is. It's going to be, we're going to give each person about a minute to describe their idea, after which we will allow you guys to form into teams. So again, you don't have to necessarily commit to your idea. At this point, we're just trying to form teams around different ideas. You can absolutely come up and present something and then work on someone else's idea. But while we do that, yeah. So I invite you guys to anyone who has, so raise your hands if you do have an idea, if you have a concept that you want to work on. Okay, great. Even maybe, yeah, okay. Put it on up there. Yeah. There you go. Okay, so I'd ask those people to please stand up and come join me over here. Let me give you guys a bit of a 15-second tip on how you might do this. So essentially what we want is you to, we're going to give you guys a sheet of paper. You're going to write your, the idea, the name of your idea, and the table. So you're going to write the name of your idea and maybe some brief short description or some kind of feature set that you hope to include, and we'll have you present for a minute. So why don't you go ahead and start writing? Yeah, by all means. Yeah. So awesome. Okay. It's important. There we go. Cool.
One of the great things that's going to happen today is when we're done, we're going to get like a popular crowd rating, and we've got a couple of great books from the Media Lab to give away. Social Physics, a real page turner, and then also Trust Data, where you can learn more about the new deal on data and personal identity and data ownership principles. Fabulous prizes. Should we do that first? Okay. Yeah. All right. Tammy and I are going to talk about, so there's several challenges that are happening as well this weekend. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Yes. There we go. Yeah, so let's do that. Well, actually, why don't you start with yours, and I'll look at the other ones when you're done. Okay, so there are several challenges. There's several challenges that are happening. The first one I want to bring your attention to, especially because I know there's some energy folks in the room, Sam and others, is the Transactive Energy Challenge, and we happen to have the organizer of that challenge right here with us, TMA, and also one of the co-organizers of the event today. So tell us about it.
Here. So the Transactive Power Challenge, the whole purpose of it is for business people, technologists, and lawyers to put their heads together to think about how to use blockchain technology to facilitate a smart grid. So there's a couple of different options. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, the web pages aren't working, it's fine. So the two main use cases, one is thinking about how to use blockchain technology to facilitate transactions and distribution of energy on a smart grid. So one example of this is what LO3 is right now doing in Brooklyn with their microgrid project. So how to use a blockchain to send energy between participants, as well as how to identify individuals who are participating in a microgrid system, and perhaps thinking about, there's a bunch of different ways to think about this, but one way is to think about how would a microgrid connect back to the microgrid and what that transaction flow would look like. The second way to look at this challenge is to think about identity of hardware. On a smart grid, there are a bunch of different IoT components that facilitate the system. How do we make sure that the counterparty of these IoT hardware, like who they're talking to, is in fact the correct counterparty, and how can blockchain be used to make this process easier, to guarantee the identity and also secure the grid. So that's kind of like a high overview of the challenge, but if you have any more questions, like come talk to me. There's a lot more description on the actual challenge page as well.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Now the web page works.
And so you can find all of these links from the event site under challenges, and I'll just rattle through the rest of them. Smart Legal Contracts Challenge is a challenge to develop a conceptual design and rapid prototype for smart legal contracts to address a legal or business problem in areas that may include supply chain, employment, professional services, etc. You can click on the Smart Contracts Legal Challenge on the challenges page. It will take you to this page. And here we go. We're asked to play this. It's 1 minute. Is that very narrow?
Smart Legal Contract Challenge, which is part of the 2018 Computational Law and Blockchain Festival. The Smart Legal Contract Challenge is presented by the Core Project and Open sponsored by the Core Project. This challenge challenges participants to design and build prototype smart legal contracts to address business or contracting problems. A smart legal contract is a legally binding agreement by external sources of data, software systems, and blockchains to enable various types of contract automation, real-time visibility by contract performance, and the integration of contracts for wide variety of software systems. For example, tools provided by clause from the Core Project for legal participants
Develop a design implementation of geography. In other words, the software project is a DAO, distributed autonomous organization. Democratization of Data Challenge by Vanderbilt University. Is a challenge where you'll get data sets and you'll do some data analytics. I'll look at design because I know you're very hacky with the data. And the basic idea is to, well, let me just read the copy here. Demonstrating how blockchain technology can be used to improve AI, artificial intelligence access to and mining of anonymized legal data for analysis and prediction while protecting the security and privacy of personal and confidential data of the type generated in legal services. By legal services in this context, we're talking about like sort of nonprofit agencies that provide services to the dispute resolution challenge is a challenge to develop a dispute flow diagram, like a workflow, and a rapid prototype that gives a dispute output based on the inputted dispute and the business model for the software system providing the service. Some people used to call this online dispute resolution, but in this case, it would be a blockchain technology. Team should also describe what type of dispute the system resolves, who would use it, the target customer. So more about that one by SageWise. The Zen Governance Challenge by Zencash and Legal.io is to develop a conceptual design and rapid prototype demonstrating a blockchain-based system for self-governance by a group or community. This is another blockchain-based challenge. The system may cover executive, legislative, and/or judicial functions of governance. The conceptual design should specify the intended groups or communities that would use the governance system. The Corporate Structure for Blockchain Ventures Challenge is a challenge to develop a corporate structure in the forms of articles of incorporation, articles of organization that would allow for each participant in a blockchain network to participate in voting and guidance of the network, fundraising for the issuance of tokens, and developers to remain agnostic in the management of the company. Yeah. This is another aspect of how DAOs can govern themselves. The corporate structure is a whole issue here. Finally, and also the Meta Challenge for decentralized terms validation. Meta Challenge. Meta Challenge. Develop a conceptual design and rapid prototype demonstrating a blockchain-based system for determining if contract terms have been honored. The system may cover verification of contract terms for services provided, such as adherence to the terms of service, TOS, quality of work completed, or other relevant applications. There's an interesting paper that's being developed by a co-makery and so-called TOS coin, terms of service coin, that's percolating up for this related to this challenge now as well. So that's, I can definitely commend all of these. Last but not least, the Sovereign Legal Identity Challenge is a little bit slow. And this is a challenge to teams participate. Let me just read it here. Develop a conceptual design and rapid prototype demonstrating how individuals can use blockchain technology to generate, use, and control their own digital identities. That's the basics of it. And for this one, you can use anything you want for the conceptual design, diagrams or what have you. For the rapid prototype, I encourage you to at least take a look at the UPort code, because they were kind enough to put together the 20-minute demo, and they'll be supporting that code. But there's plenty of other code as well for sovereign legal identities. If you wanted to take it more of a like an enterprise direction, take a look at the way Secure Key and Notarius is going to be developed with their hack. And then finally, look also at the Thomson Reuters Block One ID, where you can find a demo of that. And Brian's here and might be able to help teams that want to try that. There's plenty of other technologies as well. Okie dokie. So those are the challenges. So is everybody okay? Thank you, Chris.
All right. So we are going to have our first 1-minute pitch from Team Security. So come right up front, hand you the mic. You got a minute to win it. And
I'm not sure if that's visible. Sorry, visible on camera. Yeah. Okay, so at Security, we're rolling out a nationwide identity network in Canada. That is actually based. Who are you? Oh, I'm Roman. I'm Roman with Security Technologies. I'm a technical director at the CTO office of our company. Today, I'm presenting the effort our team will be developing over the 4 hours in partnership with a company called Notarius, which is a tech company founded by Quebec's notary bar that concentrates on digital signatures. So what we're going to perform is going to show how a real transaction would actually work in real time and remotely, with all participants potentially being remote. You can do a fully qualified digital signature based on identity provided by our network called Verified Me and the e-signature solutions from Notarius. So in every real estate transaction, you will have 2 sellers, 2 buyers, perhaps more. We have a lawyer represent them on each side, and then you just submit them to land registry. So in order to do all of this remote and securely, you will need to have strong identity for each buyer and seller and each lawyer as well. Now, what makes it possible and distinct is not so much you can verify their name, but because our network is actually based, we can also get, for example, lawyers' active status and their license number. So that makes the signatures admissible in court, and we know that at the time of signing, that person was an actual legal professional authorized for this function.
Also,
So that's the gist of what we're going to do.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roman.
We have discussion for.
Yep.
Okay, please.
Hi, my name is Daria, and I'm a recent MBA graduate from Harvard International Business School. So I was asked to throw this idea out there for the people to see, because it's one of our kind of possible futures. You know, Ray Kurzweil, he said that we're reaching singularity at around 2025, when AI is going to reach human level intelligence. So in our school, we did a project last year, and we created 4 possible scenarios for how AI is going to develop, based on the 2 main factors, which are economic prosperity and the autonomy of human decision making. So the AIs that we came up with, and we named the scenarios in such a way, I know that's not provided well, we made it simpler.
Good.
Is basically Quadzai, Jarvis, we all know Jarvis from Pyronet, Skynet, Terminator, and Annihilation. We'd rather not go there, but I'm going to focus on those three. So if anybody is interested, please feel free to join.
You're here. Thank you. Yep.
Now we have a fan favorite, vibe chain. Vibe chain.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey.
My name is Donald Salmon, and today I want to present to you the vibe chain. Think about the before. The before was like this. You show up at a party, everybody on their phone. Now what we want to try to change as the vibe chain is for you to show up at a party and dance your favorite song. Look at it this way. Here's a demonstration. I'm at the party. The DJ is playing his songs, and then with the vibe chain system, what I will be able to do is set my song to the smart speaker, and when I hear my song, I'm at the party with my friends, we're talking, and my song is coming. Well, that's my song. And all of a sudden, that's the song that put me on the grooves.
All right.
That's the song when I'm listening to it, I can talk.
Yeah.
That's the song when I'm listening to it, I'm imagining all the good things that are happening in my life. Because that's my song, ladies and gentlemen. And when I'm listening to that song, I set up my vibe. What? Hello, Chris. When I'm listening my song, I'm in a vibe. I'm at a party because the DJ is playing my favorite song. So this is the main idea. You're at a party, you listen to your favorite song, you enjoy it with your friend, you make it your favorite move.
They're here. That's why we have technology. Okay. Good stuff. Thank you. We need that app. Real bad. Mr. Bob.
So the project is sanction.io, which is a reporting system for bad actors on Telegram, ICO scams. Like the concept is that there's so many bad actors, and I have yet to see any system for reporting fraud and abuse. So the concept is if you've used the Telegram system before, there's the ability to forward messages between channels or to a bot. So the concept is building a bot that would log bad actors and then use those logs for potential further activity. So,
What kind of activity?
legal activity. So potentially litigation.
Okay.
Now we have gun control chain.
I don't like this idea. I know this is a polemical and very controversial issue that everybody thinks. I'm Lida Mastico. I'm a lawyer, Venezuelan lawyer. And this idea has been bothering me for a while. And now that I've been going all those blockchain, cryptocurrency meeting, I only learned that I can apply blockchain to, I might be able to apply blockchain to the gun control chain. We know that statistics said that it's been a lot of mass shootings since 1982 to 2012 in the US. And you know those 49 of those shooters have been done by people that legally buy their guns, and it's been a place. They have a certificate that they purchased in it legally. And it's in Sandy Hook in 2013 to 2015, it was 122 school shootings. What my idea is, I don't know if blockchain can do this, but it's try to identify businesses that sell guns and create a database with the numbers of the people that buy those guns on those stores, and trying to see if we can add to that, to the buyers, ask like a certificate of mental, they're not sick, they don't have any problem mentally, and be able to access to medical, records to be able to establish that they don't have any problem. And then I think that way this eliminate a lot of this, might eliminate a lot of those problems.
Well done.
Because well-regulated militia sometimes register stuff and you can track the guns, perhaps. Yeah, I think so. On a blockchain. That's how we regulate it.
Now we the customers.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Matt Francis. I'm in the MBA program at Madison College. And before that, I used to work on campaigns in politics in Washington. So I have this project called We the Customers. Basically, I'd like to hack the United States Congress by creating an open source process that enables direct citizen action and adds an advisory through an integrated layer on top of or beneath, however you think of it, the House of Representatives. So basically, a large part of our broken process is how we actually get laws to the floor of Congress, how we decide what we vote on. And that is kind of held by the biggest gatekeepers of all. It's the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader. And the rules typically work against the lower member of Congress coming and proposing a piece of legislation that may be wildly popular, but isn't popular with the Speaker or the congressional leadership. So we ultimately like to create a platform similar to GitHub that would allow people to take direct action. On certain policies, they'd be able to actually create legislation through code, smart contracts. On the other hand, they'd also be able to provide oversight on issues that they may not be able to properly adjudicate in a public forum. So ultimately, through this process, we'd be able to force bills through the floor of Congress, perhaps through some kind of an amendment to the Constitution. And finally, the way people will build these blocks, these policies will be through a system of policy blocks. So basically, you'll have templated information that can be inserted in policies that will make it that much faster for someone to read because they know that the boilerplate things that are included in every bill, they can glaze over those things, making it a lot easier for people to read and understand laws.
All right. We've got Ryan with residence tax, smart contract. Woo! All right.
So, this is the idea I talked about yesterday. So, this is we're going to have build a smart contract that would interact with your phone, that would allow you and all the stakeholders, you, the city, and the public, to verify in a privacy-preserving way that you were or were not a resident of the city for the appropriate number of days. That would determine whether you paid the high residence tax or the lower non-residence tax, and then fairly pay your due tax to the city. Can smart contracts help? We'll try to write one. Does it preserve all of your privacy? Does it enable auditability? Does it help solve this problem that's costing cities a lot of money in residence tax fraud?
Thank you.
Possibility is you.
So I just want to give a note before anybody starts accusing us of violating any bylaws. There are no explicit rules that state organizers cannot pitch ideas as well and work on challenges themselves. So
Well, we should fix that loophole next year.
next year we'll fix it.
This year, however. Okay, so actually, this is more like Daria's in a way. It's not a hacking project per se. It's at least right now a discussion, one of the unconference discussion sessions on developing sovereign identity principles. I mentioned it a little earlier, but at 3:30 p.m. today in that little room over there, we'll convene one of the unconference breakout discussions, and and this will be reviewing existing sets of sovereign identity principles, such as the Sovereign Foundation Trust Framework. Section 2's got some nice principles. and we'll look at Christopher Allen's 10 principles that Christian Smith mentioned yesterday. We'll look at identity ecosystem steering committees, key principles from the Obama administration's national strategy for trusted identities in cyberspace document, which is terrific. And we'll look at the Jericho Forum principles, and we'll just start to say, what are some of, we'll try to sort of what are the key principles where people own and control their own digital identity that should apply, and see if we can begin a dialogue on catalyzing some consensus around an overarching set of principles that can help guide development and usage, and also legal frameworks and technology architectures, maybe even business models for sustainable systems whereby people can own and control their own identity. That was way over a minute. Okay, so come join the dialogue and hack the future today.
Last one.
So last one is entitled Housing ID. This is a 45-second overview of the real estate ecosystem. And we've already heard of two real estate use cases. Secure key down here is in the closing. Residency tax down here is in the home ownership. The housing ID plays up here. All of us, whether we like it or not, we're being tracked by at least 10 sites at the same time. That's up here in the smart city. We as home buyers, we as renters, we as roommates, we have a digital identity whether we know it or not. And Rezo has a tracking group so that various real estate portals know how to track you. So what if we could send out real estate intent casts to sellers? What if we could save $30 billion a year by avoiding the MLS? This is where the disruptive innovation in real estate is, and the housing ID is the key.
All right.
All right, so round of applause for everyone that presented an idea. That's really amazing ones. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start forming these teams. So the rules are, we need a minimum of 2 people on each idea, but you can subscribe to more than one idea. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do is to stand up, please. Okay. All right, and so you'll notice that we have all of the ideas, pieces of paper, spread out around the place. I want you to find the idea that you're gravitating to most. If you presented one, you're stand in front of that, and but do circulate around and try and find ones that you're interested in. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to figure this one out. After which we'll try to narrow down the ideas a little bit, and we'll get hacking. So yeah, one more.
So for also the global challenges, they're not up on the wall. So if you're interested in any of those, stand over here, and then we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the idea that you can do one of these projects and submit it as one of these?
Oh, you can. So I'm just saying,
Yes.
if someone's interested in something other than the projects that are on the wall and instead on the hack list. I'm stand over here.
Yep, and that reminds me of something. If you are doing the global challenge, this is very, very important. The international organization has got as like an intake form, and they've been coming in like hot and heavy around the world. So to register your team project, click this form and ask any of the organizers how to find it. If you need help, you can get it on the Sovereign Legal Identity Challenge and also on the challengers page at legalhackers.org. And then when you're done before 1 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, if you're here in the Boston node, click the Submit Your Team Project form as well. And one little thing that we're doing, because we wanted, for lots of reasons, we're people that are hacking a challenge around the world, we're asking for a team photo. And so we'll put that in a blog post, but it's also going to be one of the ways we can kind of associate who it is that was on a project with their projects, short of getting a bunch of other personal data in a form that's more easily hackable. So challenges, forms, fill them out.
All right, fantastic. So you now have 10 minutes to fund your team. Use your time wisely.
Ding, ding, ding. feel like we need some music. All right. So I'll just say.
You can see it. I see.
Okay, so during this period, we're going to just kind of go. We're going to go off, and we'll come back during the next broadcast session. So just for the sake of having one broadcast feed, we're going to do it like this, and we're going to do it like this. We'll be back. We got the music going now thanks to Vibe Chain. Fantastic.
So are you heading up a hack?
No, I'm just going to do a discussion today and I'm going to make myself available. Yeah, I love a hacking project.
I understand. So you're going to be discussing identity.
Okay, everybody, 10 minutes are up. I hope everyone found a team. For those of you that are on a team, how about this? Who is not currently on a team? Who does not have a team? Okay.
Sam, a few people,
Okay.
Daria.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to announce the people that do have teams. Those of you who don't, feel free to join the ones that you're gravitating towards. Can I have the team leaders that have teams come up, please?
Yeah. Okay. Eyes on the team.
Quick summary. I'm sure your ideas have evolved. I think we have some from back there as well, right?
Where's Brian?
Brian, yeah.
This is you.
Yeah, come on up. All right, so we'll start over here.
I think it's you. You're saying people that
So,
want to have a team are going to do
working
something.
on sanction.io, which is the
Go on.
a bot for
Just say
reporting
Brian.
bad actors on
Do whatever
Telegram
Crystal.
and also potentially on blockchain,
Yeah.
because there's no quick route from seeing something bad happening to making a note of it. You know, going out from different applications can be difficult. If I see something bad and I want to like copy it and then I have to open the web browser and then go to the right website and paste it, it's so much work, right? But if there's something within Telegram,
Yeah,
that's good. So,
like a bot.
work on that.
Brilliant.
Here,
All
here.
right, thanks so much. Let's get to the next one. What team are we? Which team are we representing here?
So I'm the housing ID.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll go over to Chris.
Oh, yeah, that always helps. He's writing blockchain. This is presumptively good.
I'm just starting
Because
with the-
blockchain.
Okay, so nobody was attracted to the housing ID, but that doesn't change the fact that there still are multiple use cases in the real estate ecosystem. So I would simply say to my peers in residency tax, secure key, we the customer, if you want to talk about neighborhoods, if you want to collaborate, let's see where we meet with the housing ID. And at the end of it, let's throw a block party, which is why that's why I put in blockchain as in neighborhood block parties. Touche.
Yes.
Turns into blockchain.
That's pretty good.
Brian.
Yeah, so we're gonna write a smart contract, we're gonna track residency, we're gonna fund our cities, man.
Right on. Solidity.
Who still needs to? Yeah. One more.
So we are going to work on putting together the framework for We the Customers, hopefully have something of a working prototype, maybe one that might work for charities or some organization like that, so we can see how the system might work.
Here, here.
Awesome. All right, fantastic. And then we have, you got vibe chain? Do you have a team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be on your team.
Okay.
Come on up. Yeah.
You gotta get vibe chain going.
We do.
Thank you.
Why don't we already have
So
this?
what we will be doing right now is to do a small prototype, asking everybody one of their favorite songs, and from suggested from Professor Daza is to put it in the box and demonstrate what the vibe stream will be able to do to improve you, to improve you and your
All right. Fantastic. All right, guys. It's been 1 o'clock for the last 2 or 3 minutes. 5. So I recommend you find a nice nook and that you start hacking away. We'll reconvene in about 20 minutes. If you guys are interested, there's going to be a design thinking session led by myself, which you're more than welcome to attend. We're going to run through essentially some assumption mapping and some rapid prototyping. So yeah, hope to see you guys there. But in the meantime,
And do you want to talk about where you're going to order pizza?
oh, pizza's coming. We've got pizza coming in about an hour or so.
Did you order it?
Yes.
Okay. So
Pizza's
yay,
on its way.
pizza.
So yeah, look forward to that. And otherwise, yeah, happy hacking. Good hunting.
Okay. You're here. Well.
I'll make sure I get that.
How do we discuss this? We missed like the first time.
It's going to be like a proposal, so you're going to propose it. People will join, and yeah, we'll have about an hour.
Yeah, I would be.
You want to start some photos?
You doing the security stuff?
No, the residence tax.
And then look like you're on team.
Okay,
that's all right. There you go.
Now,
All right.
we're going to repeat the same photo.
Teeny. They're teeny.
Yes. That's good.
Because we actually, so what we're gonna do, right? Media.
Me either.
I mean, I know for sure we can do that one. I don't know what we can do with AI, but.
And then I say use your judgment.
So it's not
This is Maya.
How you doing? See you again.
the autonomy is lost.
We're gonna go over there. I like it. You don't want to be in the okay. Don't you want to be in the I can be in the photo. Cool. Sure. Here we go. How do I do it? There you go. All right. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna flip you those surface.
So what we're doing right now is a method called paper prototypes. And we're doing I can help with this. So this is Bob. So I'll just write the blank. Bob. I can read and actually I use kind of in order to algorithm was kind of rough out. I'm not sure I don't know if this is true. I think each per minute is on.
I thought it was 100, but is it full?
Yeah, that's yeah, because otherwise there's nothing to the matching. Well, if you say the song, you'll find the notes coming out.
Yeah.
Some DJs
I'm willing to say, Roman, that you're one when you are where it comes to the closer.
Yeah. Well, it could be
yeah.
You might need to get everybody here.
So I
Yes.
to start name on the you can do it. And then you take look at my we'll fix it as we go.
Jurisdictions of
I'm dual masters. I did the master's.
Yeah, we just actually just now so our teams. It's something that's
Great.
Let me know.
So look, maybe core
Yeah, it's so good to have you here.
Totally.
That's brilliant. That's what every
thinking.
That's great. Yes. That's fantastic. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot to write down.
You want a cookie?
We got cookies, we got cereal.
All of it works.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, let me know who you want.
That's right. That's the smartphone.
And then there's like, see their form, this is the part that I don't know about, but we like, what, and then what's that things like, we like, when we get them all,
So the interns,
seven songs.
Are you not, don't have a team project or something?
Oh, I have a team project. We've been here since 10:30. Oh, we were just in the kitchen. So
Team set up and all that.
oh, cool. Yeah, we're a team. I have my members. Have they come over yet?
Because, you have any poster up somewhere?
No, we were, and then someone, we were in the kitchen as we showed us 10:30. No one was here. So we just started.
Oh, I see. So you kind of went ahead on your own.
I guess that is so.
That's all right. That's what I was going to mention.
Okay.
So discussion.
You just missed something great.
So there is a.
There you go.
These are the physical.
Because a lot of things
This
we could perhaps make sense logically. Once the lines are ground, we have some roadblocks or something. Unexpected situations, but
so we're
Let's say Facebook has trying to make their login free and use it as a license. So they
building up.
So this
Ground.
is, they call it the certified. And the average, more than one
So like,
everything else.
your question is, how do you
Late
organize?
19,
Once you have a second phase, that's the second phase. And then is what I am. That's a little bit of a tricky one. Environmental. Or it could be what other people know about you. So let's say my definition is wrong. It's very difficult to say, no, I'm not, I'm somebody else. So it's
Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome.
Well, actually, we were with Michael in the cafeteria.
What?
We were in a cafeteria with Michael.
Which cafeteria?
So there's a cafeteria right behind.
Oh, where there's
Small
like a
kitchen
coffee
space.
machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hanging out?
We were hanging out. We just, I mean,
Identity project.
Okay.
Yeah, but this
So
is a beautiful.
we made
space.
some progress.
Very good. Oh, I wonder, Michael should probably have said something about his project. That's okay, he doesn't have to.
Yeah. Also, I have a question. Like during this CL plus B event,
Yes.
Olivia is where we get to make
interesting were arbitration for replacement tokens and
Okay,
SAT
folks, we're gonna turn this live stream off, and then we'll start it again when we get into the unconference sessions, and then we'll start it again for the report outs at the end of the day. So see you then.